Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Wow, I see a lot of participants still joining in, so we'll give it just another moment. All right. All right, are we good to get started? I think without wasting a lot more time, I think we can just get started. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Madhuri, and I'm the product marketer at EXIN. And I'm excited to welcome you to today's session on AI compliance in the EU AI Act. With us, we have an amazing panel today, true pioneers in the AI and compliance space who will make us make sense of this complex and fast evolving topic. So let me briefly introduce everyone. We have Rob van der Weer, who is the Chief AI Officer at SIG. He's a leader in AI security and compliance and co-editor of the AI Act Security Standard. We also have Isabel. Isabel is AI Risk and Safety Advisor. She's a co-founder at RIDE and expert at CNCNELEC GTC 21, where she contributes to AI standards. We also have Alexandra, who is the co-head of DORDA's Digital Industries Group, a specialist in IT and IP and data protection law, and board member at Women in AI Austria. We're really looking forward to hearing their insights. And if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll take that up. We also have Suzanne Galetli, Digital Skills Director at EXIN, who will be moderating the session today. So over to you, Suzanne. You can take it up from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madhuri, and it's great to be able to be here. It's a moderator's dream to have such a dream team of panelists on such an exciting topic. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I think let's start to dig in already. I think I'd like to start with you, Isabel, if I may. You know, AI is everywhere these days. We can't get away from it, even if we would want to. But the maturity level is obviously still quite low, which means there's a lot of kind of, learning as we go along. What do you see as the main ethical and security risks associated with AI as we go through this learning process?
Hi everybody. I will just start as being the first one saying hello to everybody and thanks for inviting me to be here with all of you. Regarding your question, yeah, the learning process, I think especially, in the field of ethics, we have been talking for a long time about things that can go wrong. Like, in the Netherlands, we have with all these discrimination cases, and we are not even talking about generative AI there. And something that, by the way, I find a bit surprising because with generative AI, we don't talk too much about discrimination when we talk about other things. And like, for instance, when we see now all these chatbots that are giving you like advice about mental health and all those things. So there we could really get into the field of discussing, is it really something that we consider, that could eventually impact us negatively. But what I see, and regarding also the part of your question about security, that the field has tremendously changed. I mean, I remember in 2022 when I published my library of threats about AI. For security, there were just a few threats. That were not too many organizations really busy with that. Now it has exploded, and I'm sure Rob is going to tell much more about that. But also with the agentic AI now, all the issues that we have with integrations, every new protocol that appears, that new vulnerabilities are found out, and especially with prompt injection. And I talk mostly about LLMs because that's more my field of expertise. But there are things where we still don't have solutions. And yeah, it is a field where you need to keep learning. And I think organizations are not there yet. It's something we have seen since really long in the field of AI. It's you are moved by passion and what you think that solution is going to give you, without thinking more carefully on probably situations that that are not so comfortable when you think only in the big picture of what you want to achieve. So you also need to look at things that are more difficult to solve and where technically we don't have still solutions.
Thanks a lot, Isabel. I mean, you've already mentioned agentic AI. We're hearing a lot about that these days. But I think the link you mentioned with, use of AI for mental health is particularly interesting, because obviously that's so sensitive. On the one hand, it can be part of the solve, but on the other hand, it has to be treated with the utmost of care. Rob, can I turn to you? Are there other points that you'd like to mention here when we're talking about the ethical and security risks?
Yes, I believe the biggest risk is the combination between our enthusiasm and the lack of awareness, right? Wisdom is knowing what you don't know. We want to connect AI to everything, and rightfully so, but we're very unfamiliar with the potential consequences for individuals of these systems, and we hardly know how to secure them. But it's not just about protection of personal data. It's also about people's control over their data, about fair treatment, transparency, accountability, consent. So what sometimes seems as a harmless application of AI to a business, sounded like a great idea at the time, can have devastating effects. And I think the trick is to embrace this, to accept our AI ignorance, if you will, that we're still learning, and being honest about it to each other, so we can be more careful and take our time to check if something is really a good idea or not.
Yeah, I love that, accept our AI ignorance, because I think we're all sometimes guilty of the AI halo effect, and thinking that it can solve all of our problems, and that's obviously sometimes where it can go wrong. If I can stay with you, Rob, can you give some examples of that, of where it's gone wrong, where we perhaps haven't accepted our AI ignorance, and where during this learning process it's actually gone significantly wrong?
Yes, I think a very local example, but I think internationally famous, is the Dutch childcare benefit scandal, the toeslagenaffaire. That one comes to mind because it caused the Dutch government to resign in 2021. Another example is Amazon, who had to stop using AI in selecting people completely autonomously because it favored male applicants, even though the AI did not know the gender. And when they analyzed how it behaved, it appeared it picked up on the gender of the applicant by the way men write their letters differently from women. And regarding security, there are many, many examples of incidents, but I think what is worrying is that the detectability of these security incidents is really low. It's really hard to detect AI incidents. So we are likely dealing with much more successful AI attacks than those reported. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. There's probably a lot hidden under the surface that we don't even know about. The Amazon one, I think, is always an interesting one, but it sort of shows how AI can amplify our own biases by the data that's being used, I think. Interesting. And any examples that you would like to add to that, Isabel, from your side?
Well, more than examples, I think what I would like to add to what Rob just said is the fact that it's not only the AI what can go wrong, but the whole process, like in the example of the Dutch benefits scandal, when we blame very often the AI. That was really simple. I think doesn't even follow the definition of AI according to the last guidance, but still the whole chain, it failed, and humans also failed in the process. So that's something that we need to consider. It's not a matter of blaming the tool, but the whole ecosystem that is there involved. And also regarding what has been mentioned, the difficulty to detect some of the threats. What I want to say here is that what is also sometimes difficult is to even mitigate, to have a warranty that what you are, the measures you are applying, that they're really going to work. And that is something that we see, especially more in the field of generative AI. So yeah, that is a problem, because when it comes to identify what can go wrong in your risk assessment, for instance, you could think in measures to mitigate that risk, but yeah, you don't have those warranties. So at a certain point, yeah, you cannot really say the problem is solved. So so that is something to keep in mind, and to think that, to realize that we need to think harder, to think in extra measures, and think still what happens if this would still happen, this risk, even after applying mitigation measures, and keep an eye on all what is going on. I know it's really crazy because it's every day there's something new, but there's also every day good news, like with prom injection. Now that has been a new paper release, giving some nice light to the fact that maybe we will have soon a solution to that. So yeah, that's the beauty of this field, that every day new things are happening.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Isabel. It's certainly developing very quickly. I'd like to turn to you now, Alexandra, because you are the author of the AI Handbook. So what triggered you to write the AI Act Handbook, sorry?
Oh, very good question. I decided not to have any summer vacation anymore and to do something for the community. No, it was just kidding. The main reason or motivation that triggered us, like I'm speaking of Women in AI as an NGO, as a community of experts and all interesting parties that want to shape the AI future for tomorrow. They decided to write a book about the AI Act, to make it very simple to understand, because the AI Act has over 100 pages and leaves a lot of room for interpretation. There are a lot of different obligations, vague phrases, and different requirements that have to be considered when deploying or building, designing AI systems. So we decided to look at the AI Act not only from a legal perspective, but also from a technical, from a sociological, from an organizational perspective, to combine all the relevant fields and have a look at it from an interdisciplinary angle, because this is something that is really missing, to discuss new regulations, not only between lawyers, rather between different experts like we do here right now. This is the relevant part. Otherwise, we cannot implement trustworthy AI at all.
Perfect. So really a cross-disciplinary approach to trying to navigate the AI Act, because I think those that have tried to dig into it already will see that it can sometimes be complex. If I can stay with you, Alexandra, just for now, what was actually the intention of the AI Act and the kind of approach that was taken to its development?
This is questions that everyone asks me. Why do we need another regulation? Don't we have a lot at all? And the answer is very easy. It's not already regulated in the European Union. Like artificial intelligence as a software has never been seen as a product. And now with the AI Act, AI systems and general purpose AI models are regarded as products that you develop, that you place into the market, and that can not only bring new chances or benefits, but also pose different risks that we already heard before from Rob and from Isabel. So the idea is to have a product safety regulation, requirements with which the software should comply with, to ensure a secure and a trustworthy use of new technologies. And in the European Union, we decided to have a unified approach, meaning across all member states, the AI Act as as a regulation is valid and is building a new standard. This makes also the European Union to be seen more like one market instead of fragmented markets between a lot of member states, and should also ease the deployment and the reselling of AI systems in Europe.
Yeah, so it's very much sort of a balance between a product approach to try and foster innovation, but at the same time protecting the risk side of things. Is there anything you want to add to that, Isabel? And I'm thinking also particularly around the risk classification system, which I think is an interesting part of the approach that was taken to the development of the Act.
Yeah, in fact, it's a sort of a framework, right? It offers you a classification of high risks systems that we can take as reference. And I like to make here a comment, because very often I see people just focusing on the AI Act, but I think we should not forget about the GDPR, for instance. So, I mean, we have a classification in the AI Act, but there's so many systems that don't fall under that classification that still could be high risks from a different perspective. So that they don't fall under the classification doesn't mean we should not do our work and try to find out what could go wrong with that with those systems. I think also something I would like to mention is the fact of because it's something we are struggling in the standardization. And this is what makes, from my perspective, the AI Act different to other product safety regulations, and is the fact that fundamental rights is embedded in the regulation. So that makes it really different and also challenging. And like I said, something that in the standardization we see that implement the way we look at fundamental rights in Europe into really the software design and way of looking at safety of products, for instance, it's quite challenging. And by that, we're trying to help us with the risk management, with the process, and trying to find a way to identify those risks and mitigate them, and still really challenging, because I'm not going to get now into the discussion with fundamental rights and court cases and the way they're identified or really mitigated. That's something that I will say that maybe we are not even prepared for that we still need to learn from that field how to apply to systems, but I think it's something really good and important to mention.
Yeah, absolutely, and I suppose it kind of forces us to think about, you know, human-centric design, doesn't it? But embedding it into everything, as opposed to a kind of add-on thought at the end, oh, are we compliant? But to do that into everything, embedding it into everything that we design and do. Fascinating. Just before I go to the next question, I think we'd like to do a very quick poll with the audience, just one. Maybe I can ask you to launch that, Madhuri. And by the way, don't worry, we'll have time for questions from the audience as well at the end. So we're just interested to know, how prepared do you consider your organization to be to handle the ethical and security risks associated with AI? So very prepared, or somewhat prepared, or not prepared at all. We're interested in your thoughts on that from the audience, please. And I can't see what's happening, Madhuri, so I will need you to...
Right, a lot of responses are coming in. We'll just give it another 10 seconds before I end the poll. But this is very interesting. And the results are in.
Okay, so very prepared is only a small percentage, 7%, somewhat prepared 60%. You need to enhance your practices, but something is going on. That's good to hear at least. And not prepared at all, it doesn't surprise me that much that the maturity overall is still quite low. That's not crazy, about a third of you. So thanks, that's very interesting. And it sort of leads me to our next question. I'd like to turn to you, Rob, for this question. You know, Article 4 talks about the need for AI literacy, and it's actually already applicable since February, that part of the AI Act. What does AI literacy mean, and how can you tackle it?
Yes, indeed. Since February, we're all asked to comply with this. And when I say all, I mean providers of AI systems to the EU and employees involved with AI in Europe. So this is quite a large group. And I know from firsthand that many organizations are not ready for this. But I wholeheartedly recommend organizations to give this a go, because it's a great catalyst for getting ready for AI in general. And what does it mean, AI literacy? It means that the people that use and develop AI are able to do so successfully, effectively, and in compliance with the AI Act. And it needs to be tailored to the context. So you can't just download a video and ask everybody to watch it. You need to look at the use cases. You need to look at where people are when it comes to their own experience and skills, and base the training on that. And at SIG, we've developed our own AI literacy training, and it's very tailored to the use cases that we experience, because only then you can be clear about the risks, and only then you can give clear instructions. And because you need to give instructions, you need to talk about do's and don'ts, which are also quite context sensitive, right? Every situation is different. So in order to set up a successful AI literacy program, you need to first understand what AI am I already using? What am I intending to use? What are the concerns? What are the risks? And how are we going to deal with that? So in order to create an AI literacy program for your organization, you actually need to go through the whole motion quickly of what it means to your organization, what policy you need, because only then you can turn that into do's and don'ts. And when you have a policy, you don't want everybody to learn 25 rules from the top of their head. You want to provide guardrails. You want to provide them with facilities that already take care of the things that the people should be careful on. And what remains are a couple of instructions that you then need to integrate into that AI literacy training. So I regard it as a very powerful mechanism for organizations to get ready for AI, and recommend everybody to give it a go.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, your message is clear. There's no one size fits all. It's context specific, which means organizations need to really be looking at what they're doing. And yet we've seen from the poll that most organizations at the moment are not doing that yet. So that sort of exposes the gap, I would say. Do you want to add something, Rob? I think your hand is up.
Yes, I wanted to add that for AI literacy for groups of employees, it's often tailored, but for specific roles, there are trainings available. There is very good material available, like if you're a compliance officer or AI ethics officer or chief AI officer, there is standard material that can bring you up to speed and sort of complementing that AI literacy program for specific roles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there are some kinds of guidelines and standards that people can use for that. You know, I've looked at Article 4 myself. I think it's quite vague in the way that it's sort of defined. I can imagine it would be very difficult to really police whether it's being followed. How do you see that, Alexandra, in terms of enforcing an article like that, which is sort of quite vague and high level?
I mean, Article 4 is indeed very high level, just speaking about relevant measures that shall be implemented to ensure a trustworthy and secure use of AI systems and models. But yeah, sometimes it feels like there's something missing because there are no specific measures that are listed in there. But I see it as a benefit. We need a dynamic and agile legal framework. We cannot adapt every act and regulation every year because the measures change. So it has a specific aim and a purpose why it's that broad and open. And with regard to the obligations, I totally agree with Rob. I mean, you have really summarized it on point. There is no one-size-fits-all AI literacy plan that you can use for different organizations. You have rather to check what or where do you use AI and where do you see chances and risks. And I want to also add some myths and truths about the AI literacy, because everyone is talking right now about AI literacy. Everyone needs to be trained. Everyone needs to do workshops. But that's not true in this way, because Article 4 obliges only providers and deployers. Providers and deployers are like the mostly seen actors in the European Union when it comes to AI systems. And then they have to ensure that their personnel, every other involved third party, knows how to use the AI system. What does that mean? It might be the case that you have personnel and employees that don't use AI. So you don't have to train them. You can leave them in their doing their job and not using the resources for any workshops that are not relevant for them. And it's also another interesting part is that Article 4 speaks explicitly about chances and risks. So you need to raise awareness not only about the don'ts, but also about the potentials. And this is also a good sign, because if you don't talk with people in your firm, where do you see potentials, where do you see the chances, you won't identify all relevant use cases. So you have to onboard everyone. Another myth is that every company needs an AI officer. No, that's not true. Like, this is something that the GDPR sets forth, that you need in some cases a data protection officer, but there is no similar obligation in the AI Act. However, most companies decide to designate specific leaders or people being in the lead because it's easier from a project management side, but it's not something that you have to announce or notify a market authority. Another myth is that you could get fined up if you don't implement AI literacy. I'm very sorry. This is also something, if you read something like this, it's not true, because if you don't implement AI literacy, there is no explicit fine foreseen in the AI Act. It might have other indirect effects. For example, if you don't comply with other obligations under the AI Act, this is seen as a circumstance that might trigger higher fines because you haven't taken any measures in your organization to spread awareness and literacy. Or from another perspective of potential claims for damages, that is something that is an indirect consequence if you don't implement AI literacy. But to sum it up, I mean, I agree totally with Rob's idea or plan how to implement literacy in this field in a company. You have to have a strategic view on this. You have to evaluate existing use cases, upcoming use cases. You have to have a strategy on AI. What do you want to achieve on a long run, in a short term? And then you have to identify who is really involved. What are the teams, the departments that use AI systems or use the same AI systems, and then you start by drafting your own competence, skill set. And in this regard, just one final word to the potential measures that you can take. There is a lot more than just workshops and some trainer videos or training materials. You can also think about certifications. You can implement policies. You can introduce AI cafes or prompting Tuesdays, where everyone shares their best prompting skills. Or you could also implement a social media campaign for employees to raise awareness. So your skill set or your potential measures are very, very broad, and you can pick different tools. However, as it has been shown or proved that workshops that are also for specific departments, they are the most effective measures. And this is something that we deducted from the repository that has been published by the EU Commission. 15 organizations in the European Union decided to disclose their AI literacy plans, and they are coming from diverse business fields. They have different company sizes, and everyone has used into different extent workshops and seminars as a potential measure, but not only. So they also used other skill measures.
I'm going to have to go in because I'm aware we've got another couple of questions we want to get to as well. But thanks for dispelling these myths. That's very interesting. And I think one of the key messages is that, AI literacy, it underpins all the rest, doesn't it? So it's not about a tick in a box for Article 4, but you need to make sure that you get that bit right, because it underpins all the rest, and make sure you can do responsible AI. You definitely won't be able to do that if you don't have people without the right skills. So yeah, very important topic. I'd like to move on to, how can organizations start to get ready for compliance to the AI Act? And I'd like to turn to you, Isabel, again for this. What can organizations be doing to start to get ready for complying to the Act?
Well, of course, if you know that you have to comply with the regulation, that's another story, because I also hear very often organizations don't even know if they have to, if the regulation is applicable to them. So, and I must say that's where I see also most of the struggle to find out, to do the whole inventarization of what type of tools are we using. Of course, when you are developing yourself, you are a provider, that is a more clear story. But if you are as a deployer, for instance, it's not always so clear what type of tools you have in which department. I mean, we have seen very often, especially, well, I see very often marketing departments, for instance, doing their own thing with the really cool tools, but the rest of the organization don't have a clue what is happening there. And yeah, I think that could be one of the first steps. Also in the tools that you might have, because of course now is the hype. So there's a lot of suppliers suddenly implemented AI in tools that you had that you didn't know that suddenly they have a new icon there, like might happen like the last days with WhatsApp, for some of you have seen. But suddenly your supplier decides to add AI, and you need to be aware of that. So that means that it's I don't know, for the ones of privacy, that if you remember when you are doing the whole register and finding out what type of processing activities we have, what type of tools that we have internally, So yeah, then comes again that moment where you need to really look, going through all your departments. If you are a more mature organization and you have your asset management control, it's much more easy to find what you have. But if it's not the case, well, then you probably have to go through all departments, trying to find out what is going on there. And yeah, I would say that is one of the first steps. And then of course you need to see if that type of AI classifies as a system that falls under the regulation. That in a lot of cases it is not the case. So if it falls under the regulation, and of course the regulation it's really prescriptive of all what you have to do. I mean, I'm not gonna get now into explaining all what you need to do. But I would say, yeah, that is one of the first steps. In any case, doing your inventory, finding out what you have, finding out if what you have then falls under the regulation, yes or not, and then maybe others.
An important point you make as well. It's not only about getting grip of your own internal stuff that's going on, but also what suppliers down the line are doing, because you'll be accountable for that as well.
If I may add there, especially now with security, you really need to keep an eye on what is going on.
Yeah.
So there's really new vulnerabilities coming through these applications, and you need to be really aware of what is happening. AI can be really useful also for security, but what we see in practice is that if you don't have the control, eventually things can happen. That together with the AI literacy, to raise awareness among employees that they know what they have, how to use it, that's really essential.
Yeah, definitely. Rob, what would you like to add to this? I know it's right up your street as well.
Yes, it is. I very much subscribe to what Isabel just shared. It's, of course, about making an inventory of what you're doing, what you're planning to, and see if it falls under the AI Act. And what I want to recommend to organizations is, while you're doing so, you have a lot more other opportunities at the same time, right? To look at risks beyond the AI Act, like, for example, the security of your company secrets, the alignment of the different initiatives, making sure that AI governance grasps the opportunity of not just taking care of the compliance with the AI Act, but also to connect initiatives, to facilitate them, to inspire them, and come up with a policy that takes care of the broad range of risks that you're dealing with as an organization. And I always recommend my clients to apply an integrated approach, which means that they don't treat AI in isolation. Well, maybe, of course, at the beginning to make sure that you integrated it, but you shouldn't have a separate large department for AI unless that department is integrating everything in the existing organizations. So you need a community, you need a center of excellence probably. But when it comes to governance, risk and compliance, to awareness training, to security, make sure you extend those things to incorporate AI. And that way you can build on familiar elements.
Yeah.
So at the same time,
sorry.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Please. No, really embedding it into everything that you do instead of a kind of AI team in the corner doing its thing.
Yes, and if I may, I want to add to what Alexandra said about AI strategy. Of course, organizations need to think about it carefully, maybe new products and services, how it can improve their way of working, of course. But I want to say that they should not expect to find all the answers from their ivory tower, so to speak, but give AI to the masses and make sure that they can experiment with it in a controlled fashion, because the value streams will come up with some of the best ideas. And you can only create your AI strategy by regarding it as something that has a start and that needs to be extended simply by trying.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And which kinds of, I'll stay with you, Rob, for now, which kinds of guidance, frameworks and standards can help you with, let's say, with responsible AI, which can then, as a knock-on effect, help you comply to the AI Act?
I want to start with a shameless plug of the Software Improvement Group AI Readiness Guide, which is exactly meant for this purpose. I do a lot in AI security, when it comes to that topic, I refer people to owaspai.org, which presents a comprehensive framework on how to secure AI systems. And that material is feeding into a standard, a harmonized standard for the AI Act that we're working on. And when that comes out, you can find much information in there and use it for your presumption of conformity. And last but not least, also on AI security, because that's my pet topic, there is the ISO IEC 27090 that is about being finished, and that can also help organizations with securing their AI systems.
Thanks very much. Anything you'd like to add to that, Isabel? I know you're very involved in the development of standards as well.
Yeah, of course, the only problem with the standard, at least the European one, is that they are not ready yet. So that's really a pity, because we are really working really hard to finalize these guidelines. Well, I think I will take the opportunity to recommend the report that the European Data Protection Board has released last week. It's a report. Well, I'm the author of that report, but it offers you really practical guidance about, in this case, specific about privacy and data protection in LLMs. But it goes through the whole, well, architecture, life cycle, data flow, different use cases to explain, well, the different risks and mitigations. So it's quite practical.
Yeah.
100 pages, so I'm sorry I couldn't contain it in less when I created, but I think that's something good to check. And maybe something that I could also recommend from my side, and that I'm also the author, is an open source library of threats that I published in 2022, Plot for AI. And it's going to be released in a couple of weeks. In fact, before the end of this month, it will be there, and it's like a sort of game with more than 100 different sources of risks of AI, and it helps you to identify what can go wrong, gives you some mitigation measures. So it's from these tools that are just handy to know and help you on the journey.
Perfect, thank you. And I think there's quite a lot of ISO standards out there related to AI anyway, of course, the 42001, but also the, if I said it right, but also one around ethical and societal concerns as well that could be interesting for people to look at. So I'd like to go to the final question in the meat of our discussion before we then go to questions that we might have from the audience. And I'd like to go to each of you for this question, but to ask you to do it within like 30 to 60 seconds. I'd like to know to each of you, and I think I'll start with you, Alexander, why should we care about AI ethics and compliance?
Very easy to answer. We want to live in a world that we are proud of, that where we feel safe, where our children and grandchildren feel safe, and that should be the reason, the intrinsic motivation to care about that. And besides, of course, also because of liability risks that can come with a non-compliant implementation for each organization, meaning damages, fines, or reputational damages.
Thank you. Both intrinsic and pragmatic reasons there. Rob, can I turn to you next?
Yes. So the reason we have an AI Act is, of course, for one part to provide clarity what the boundaries are, but for another part to make people care, because apparently people don't always care. We have to be realistic, and the same we did for privacy in a way. So you should care because of the risk of fines. But other than that, we have a responsibility to protect the individual, of course. And I always recommend to always also embrace compliance as a driver for a broader risk-based approach to AI. Compliance is a good reason to get started, but while you're working on it, make sure that you look at all kinds of risks, not just for the individual out there, but also for your own organization and your employees, etc.
Yeah, that would be great if AI could kickstart a broader view on security and risk management. Isabel, last but certainly not least.
Well, maybe I will link it to the fact one of the myths from Alexandra when the AI literacy should just focus on the deployers and providers. I personally, and out of the regulation, think that it should apply to everybody because the important is that we all learn what are our rights, and we learn that we can fight for them, and that we can position ourselves in a position. We can really determine what the choices are of providers and deployers, because eventually we become the market. We really can make a movement there. We have some influence there, but we need to understand what are our rights, what we want, and not just let it go by easy technology that can be really handy often, but sometimes too often, but can have a negative impact too. Regarding providers and deployers, for me, it's a matter of trust. I mean, by knowing that your users eventually they also want to defend their position. You want to also have as a duty of care to take care of them, but also to create that trust link with them. Because eventually, if you have an issue, ethical issue, security issue, you know that trust is gonna break. And given the AI hype that we have now, it's not something you want. So eventually, let's make our work better together. Yes, everybody knowing what is their position in the ecosystem.
I think that's a nice conclusion. It's all about trust, and if we have trust, you've got both good business sense and a better world. So I think now we can start to go to questions from the audience, and there's a couple at the moment. One of them is that, you know, we're talking about tailored AI literacy training because every company is different. There's a question, how do you feel about AI literacy of the common used AI models like ChatGPT? Do you feel it's the responsibility of the company to train their employees on literacy, on working specifically with these kinds of tools? And I don't, whoever wants to take it can take it. Not sure who feels they can. Yeah, Rob, go for it.
There is such a big difference in the effectiveness between people who are proficient with using these tools and the people that have just started, that it's super inspirational to let just these regular users talk to each other. I think that's a clear sign that much can be gained by training these people, not just to provide the guardrails, but also to learn them about the level of trust that they can apply, that they should apply, to learn about prompt engineering, what they can benefit from it. Every organization should train the people to use it because it is natural language, but successful use is not straightforward. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. You can be very effective with it or not at all, and very trustworthy with it or not at all, I guess. So yeah, it's a good point. We've also got another question, and feel free to put in your questions in either the chat or the Q&A. I'm checking both of them. How do you balance sovereignty, security, and sustainability in adopting AI? And I know this has come from Karen, who is very into sustainability domain. How do you balance sovereignty, security, and sustainability? Which panelist fancies that one? Rob, again, you're enthusiastic.
Yes, I'm going to give,
I
try to give a good example by saying, I don't know, right? We started by, at least my first comment was to embrace our AI ignorance and accept that even for panelists who are industry experts, it is okay to say that this is not your forte, so that we can look for the right answer further. So I'm going to try and give a good example by saying, I don't know.
Fair enough. Admitting where we are still learning to try and find that balance. Any of the panelists want to add to that? Otherwise, we'll go. Oh, there's some other questions coming in anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could say that there's so much research going on in the field, especially in sustainability. So, and a lot of things geopolitically are changing too. And every day you hear something new about the new models, the useless computer power. So it's, yeah, I think it's a revolution. We need to keep an eye, and eventually when you want to deploy something, also ask very well for the specifications and make you aware of what is in terms of sustainability, for instance, what is wise to implement or not, the impact that will have. But it all starts by having yourself a feeling for supporting sustainability. That's something I don't see all organizations having. So yeah, I think if in your foundations of values as organizations, sustainability is there, and it should be from my perspective, then it's something you bring to everything, even when you do evaluations of your systems. I mean, all the actions that you take that you know are going to have an effect. Yeah, you need to do that balance exercise.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a difficult thing to balance that, because, you know, I mean, we know that AI can be a great enabler of sustainability solutions, but of course it also uses up a lot of energy.
Yeah,
so a tricky balance. We've got a question here. I'd like to turn perhaps to you, Alexandra, for this one. What's the impact of the AI Act on other countries such as the US and Canada?
It should be a huge one, because it follows a global approach. So every company, everyone who is deploying in the European Union AI systems or general purpose AI models, or import them or sell them here, or even operate them in the third country, but it has effect on citizens in the European Union, shall be subject to the AI Act. So it has a very global effect and applicability, similar to the GDPR, but that's in theory. In practice, yes, everyone should be bound to that, but every one coming from a different region of the world has a different compliance perspective or understanding. And this leads to countries or regions that have higher standard when it comes to AI, and others who don't care about specific requirements that much as we do in the European Union, and try to interpret it also differently. That's very hard to balance and to bound them by contracts, for example, to specific measures.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for those insights. We've got another question here. Can you recommend a methodology to conduct a fundamental rights impact assessment? Don't know who wants to take that one.
Oh, I'm happy to do that, because I have always looked to the Netherlands and to the Data Protection Authority there, and other authorities that have published a complete guideline on how to conduct fundamental rights impact assessments on this. And they proved to be very good. Other authorities, at least in Austria, I know that others also looked to the Netherlands, what they are doing, and try to find similar ways to draft templates and models for this.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that? I don't know if there's other...
I could add to that, since I've been part of implementations of the what we call the IAMA, the framework in the Netherlands. Well, I must have my discrepancies with some. It's a really difficult question too, because I must say there's quite some frameworks there, and there's always the discussion what is better, what is not. And besides that, of course, when it comes to the AI Act, in principle, the AI Office is going to provide with the template for the fundamental rights impact assessment. So that is one thing. But when you are anyways developing or you want to implement an application, you should anyways, if you don't fall under this definition of deployers from the, I believe it was Article 27, you have to still think if whatever you are doing will impact fundamental rights, because that's also the foundation of the AI Act, fundamental rights and security, safety, health. So I think that this some I know in Catalonia, in Spain, they have also implemented one that comes from Alexander Mantelero, a researcher that has also a framework. So yeah, there's several things to look at. I think for me personally, after trying some of them, what is important is that they really get into the part of fundamental rights and at the right time, because sometimes I have the feeling that the questions that come in some of these frameworks come of, or too late or too early, like asking what the impact the model will have when you are still in the inception phase are things that you don't know yet. So you need to learn how to adapt the framework to your specific use case.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a couple of questions left, but I think we are running out of time. So we'll see if we can somehow get answers to you following the webinar on the questions that are left, because I think I don't want to keep people past the hour. So I think I'd like to hand over to you, Marjorie, for wrapping up and some additional information that you might find useful.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, maybe just before I do that, awesome panel discussion. It was a pleasure to moderate it, but I'm sure Marjorie will also emphasize that as well.
Oh, absolutely. What an amazing session. I've made so many notes because there's so many key takeaways through this session. So thank you so much for your time. It has been incredibly valuable to get so. I'm sure everyone who leaves this session, it leaves with a deeper understanding of AI compliance, how important it is for each of us to take ownership of responsible AI. So this was super interesting. Thank you so much for your time. Before we move on, interestingly, we've been doing a lot of things at EXIN to support professionals in their AI journey. So let me quickly share my screen to show you what we've been up to. All right. So yeah, we offer a comprehensive AI certification program, which is designed to support a range of roles and experience levels. Let me quickly get started. First up, we have the EXIN BCS Artificial Intelligence Essentials certification. This is perfect for anyone who's new to AI. It covers the fundamentals of AI and machine learning. It introduces key AI concepts and its applications. Next up, we have the BCS AI Foundation. This is ideal for someone who's ready to dive deeper into AI. It explores essential AI algorithms, data processing, and model training. And it's great for aspiring data professionals and anyone working with AI teams. Then we have the EXIN Machine Learning Award. The Machine Learning Award certification is fairly new. It is a very technical certification and it gives you a structured introduction to machine learning. It also covers key algorithms, data processing, and model training, along with the real-world applications. Next up, we have the Generative AI Award. This was also recently launched with tools like ChatGPT becoming mainstream. This certification helps you understand how to harness generative AI strategically, effectively, and ethically. So it's super beneficial for content creators, marketers like me, for product managers, project managers, and designers. And lastly, we have the EXIN Artificial Compliance Professional, which is an advanced certification. It's focused on data privacy, mastering ethical AI, and ensuring compliance. This is going to help professionals prepare for in-demand leadership roles in AI. And it is all set to be launched on the 13th of June, 2025. And lastly, last but not the least, we're also launching a dedicated career path for aspiring AI compliance officers. So the journey typically starts with getting certified in information security and data protection, which helps you understand risk and regulations. And after that, you can move on to becoming an AI compliance professional, which sets you up for leadership positions in using AI ethically. If you wish to learn more about AI certifications, please visit our website, www.exin.com. You can also sign up for early updates for the AI compliance professional certification, or you can just reach out to us on support@exin.com and we'd be happy to give you all the information that you need. That's all from my end. Thank you so much for joining and hope you have a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you to everyone, panelists and audience. Thank you.
It was a true pleasure. Take care.
impact.
Thank you. Have a good